All right, so Friday night, we had the PFL playoff, the first event of the playoff 3-week run. Whoever wins these matchups is going to move on to the PFL finals in November. As we talked about before, the prelims, there were some good, fun moments. There was a guy who backflipped out of a takedown attempt. There were some nice submission attempts. Submissions that were locked in. Fun fights. Turned out way better than expected. Are there something that you need to go back and watch? Not really per se. But if you're looking for something to rewatch, they weren't too bad for PFL. We had a sub, a KO, a sub, and a sub. Not too bad in terms of PFL. They're not always putting on the great fights. I always am disappointed to see the pace of the broadcast. Like, I'm just trying to watch some MMA fights, and you're taking 20 minutes in between fights that make no sense. Yes, the UFC card was on ABC national television, but they were rolling those fights out. The prelims, they were just rolling them right out. We didn't even get to see Tony Ferguson walk out for the UFC Abu Dhabi card. But here we are at the PFL. They have TV time, I guess, and they are just going slow as a snail. I don't know what they need to do specifically to change it up, but whatever they're doing in terms of scheduling and having fights and the amount of fights maybe, they've either got too many fights and they don't have time for it, I swear, or they've got like Friday night where they just have too few fights and they're moving at a snail's pace and it's annoying and you're falling asleep in between the fights. The fights aren't even that interesting to begin with, so why am I going to stay awake for it? It's pretty frustrating to watch. But let's go over the main card a little bit. I'm not going to go in and break down the fights for you. They weren't the most interesting fights, but the expected winners did come out on top. In the main event, Denis Goltsov knocked out Tim Johnson. Good performance. He did everything that I was expecting him to do. He's a much more athletic fighter than Tim Johnson. I like Tim Johnson. I was rooting for Tim Johnson. He just came out of his job on a couple weeks' notice. He stepped in on late notice to come in and fight. Got a knockout a couple weeks ago, and now he's fighting Denis Goltsov. Goltsov got to him. Only took him like 2 minutes. The other heavyweight fight, who we're going to see in the finals, is him versus Oleg Popov. Same kind of thing with Linton Vassell. Linton Vassell, he's a good fighter. He's well-rounded, but he just doesn't have that killer instinct in my mind. And Oleg Popov was able to get to him, able to beat him up. And it's going to be Denis Goltsov versus Oleg Popov in the first round, or in the finals. And I'm looking forward to that one. Is it going to be super interesting? Probably not. But they are two athletic heavyweights, and that's always much more interesting to see than what the UFC has with their blob division. 90% of the UFC heavyweights are just blob guys. And these guys are in shape, they're more athletic, and they're more fun to watch. Is it going to be a great fight? I don't know, but I'm excited to see what happens. The PFL finals, for some reason, always seem to perform well. Everybody kind of shows up. And it's definitely more interesting than watching the entire season play out. Very confusing, the season, the scoring, the matchmaking, as we know, with the Dakota Ditcheva fight, seems very biased, and it just seems a little fishy. It seems a little bit too good to be true in the way that they speak about themselves. It's not all there yet. I get that they're growing, but there comes a point where you start to realize that there's some problems with your promotion, and they just don't seem to be fixing them. All right, on to the women's. I was again impressed by Dakota Ditcheva in the way that she was able to finish her opponent. Jenna Bishop, as a grappler, was kind of in on the legs a lot, trying to clinch, trying to get Dakota down, but Dakota was just having none of it. She's very tall, got that long and lanky style. She was able to throw those knees up the middle and get to Jenna Bishop. Her striking was just levels above, and it was a great win, great moment. She's fun to watch, yeah, but what we all want to know is, how does she do against legitimate flyweight opponents? Liz Carmouche and Tyler Santos are good, legitimate flyweight contenders. Liz Carmouche has been a long-standing Bellator contender, long-standing Bellator champion in Bellator. Yes, second-rate promotion to the UFC, but She's legit. She's got the skill. You could argue some of the Bellator women's fighters are better than overall what the UFC has. The UFC doesn't have a super strong women's division. Taila Santos, a couple years ago, arguably beat Shevchenko in their fight. Good back and forth battle. She's legit. She's top. She's world class, I guess, in the women's divisions. Taila Santos came out on top in a decision over Liz Carmouche. I thought Liz Carmouche was going to outmuscle her, but Taila Santos honestly looked like the stronger fighter, the better fighter overall. Wasn't unexpected, but I was surprised that she was able to do it in such, I don't know, not dominant fashion per se, but she kind of dominated her in terms of the athleticism. Liz Carmouche is good. She'll be back probably. She's getting old, but whatever. It's the women's divisions. But looking ahead to Taila Santos and Dakota Ditcheva, I don't know if Ditcheva's really ready for it. She has the height. Let's look at the face-off that they did after the fight. Here's the finish. Letting her back up. And just goes in for the kill with the kicks. Boom, boom. Puts her out. We all knew that was going to happen. I like this. I like Dakota. She's a bit of a character. She's fun. You know, she's a young, attractive female. She's got it all, dude. They want to push her to the ends of the earth. She's got the height on her. She's got the length. She's got a really long legs. She can get those knees in there if Tyler's trying to clinch, much like Jenna Bishop was. But, this is cracking me up. Yeah, she's fun. She's a good character. She's got a place in MMA, in the PFL. But can she keep it up and put on a performance where she stays in her realm and Taila isn't able to mix it up, isn't able to take her down and bring her down into her world? I don't know. We'll talk more about that one as we get closer to it. I think it's interesting. Not all the women's fights are very interesting, but this one's kind of got some interesting buzz around it, interesting aura around Dakota Ditcheva. She's a big prospect that they're trying to push on you like she's the greatest thing in the world. I'm not so sure yet. I would like to see her succeed. She's entertaining to watch. But does she really have it? I don't know. I guess we'll see in November. That's it. PFL playoffs, week 1 in Nashville, Tennessee. There are the results. Oleg Popov getting a win over Linton Dussel. Denis Goltsov being the other heavyweight finisher, finalist for the belt, for the $1 million. Taila Santos coming out on top over Liz Carmouche, and Dakota Ditcheva, the other finalist to take on Taila Santos in the finals in November. PFL finals this November.